Hello folks, welcome to my 6th vlog. Iain again. This one is going to be entitled 2 Mules for Mr. Plager, and anybody who's as old as me might get that reference to a Clint Eastwood film. Terrible pun, I'm sorry. However, what I've done this week is I thought I quite fancied painting a vehicle because I've not painted one of those for a very long time, other than some GW Adeptus Titanicus Titans. So I thought I'd give that a go, look like fun. I was doing this in sort of 20-minute bursts before I went to work in the mornings this week. I've painted this one using lots and lots of techniques that I usually use to paint scenery, which are super quick and super cheaty, really. So that's the finished product, but I actually finished it yesterday morning and I thought, blimey, that was really quick. I wonder how much time I've actually spent painting this model, and I couldn't let that go. So what I decided to do was to paint another one on the clock and see how long it was between me emptying the bag of bits out and being able to put one just like that on the table. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do it this morning. I'm going to film as much of it as I can. I'll try and get a stopwatch on my tablet in the background so you can see exactly how much time has gone by, and we'll see exactly how long it takes. So I'm going to go to my painting place and crack on with that and see where we get to. See you in a bit. Right, so I've sorted all my pieces out and I've got a stopwatch in the background. I'll try and film this as best I can, but I'm going to try and build them all. Got the cab pieces here, got the wheelie bits here, suspension stuff, and the front bit there. And I'm going to build the sub-assemblies, then spray paint them, then paint them, then assemble the final assembly. So let's see how quickly it happens and what goes wrong. Right, so that's the main sub-assemblies built. Took me about 14 minutes and a bit. I've glued these together whilst they've been pushed in to the chassis, but I want to take them out because I'm going to spray those a different colour. But I just push them in there to make sure that the angles are right. So they're front suspension, rear suspension, wheels. They are really difficult to get the backs in, but once they're in, you know they're safe. The cab assembly there with the Plague bits on, and I've got the wheel bits and the dozer blade at the front. The reason why I'm keeping them like this is and the little machine gun from on top. The reason why I'm keeping them like this is I'm going to spray them different base colours to make it quicker to paint them. So I'm going to do these grey, all of that Zandri dust, the GW spray. I'm going to do these, the rest actually dark. Well, I'll do the weapon grey as well because that's a better base coat for that. And then all those things there are going to be a sort of rust brown coloured. And I'm going to do that outside, so I'm not going to do that on camera. But I will take the stopwatch with me and I will time to see how long it takes. So I finished undercoating. Here's the main chassis, which I've done, as I said, Zandri dust. And you can see there's bits that I've base painted grey and bits that are base painted a dark brown, all with rattle cans. I've not undercoated. I've used these as the undercoats. They don't rub off. I've painted about 10 tables, 11 tables of scenery using no undercoat on plastic. So it does work, it stays. I'm happy with that. And I'm going to use some really, really cheaty ways of doing things to paint this up quickly, which is just what I did with the one that I showed you at the start of the video. So I'm going to use sponges, I'm going to use makeup brushes, I'm going to use a bit of stippling and dry brushing. I've also got sponges, and this is just sponge that you take out the middle of the holes in sponge that you use for carrying miniatures around. in carry cases. Don't throw that away, it's dead useful stuff. So it's actually quite difficult for me to do this round the camera, so I'll show you what I'm doing to start with. Then I'll turn the camera off and move it, and then I'll come back when I've done each stage and I'll show you how I've done each stage. I think that's the easiest way to do it, otherwise I'm going to get paint all over my camera and all over my iPad. So let's start the clock. I'm just going to take this colour first, Shabty Bone. I'm just going to use a coffee stirrer to get a load out onto just a piece of plastic. Just wipe some of it, whatever's left on there. And the idea here is not to soak the sponge, but to just sort of get enough on it so that when you dab on the surface of the model, it leaves some behind and leaves the dark undercoat in the recesses. It's just like dry brushing, but a lot faster and with a sponge, so you don't get the brush marks in there. So you can see I'm going to work my way around the whole model like this. So I'm going to do the whole model, and then I'm going to pick out all the bits that I need to pick out, like the rusty bits and the upholstered bits in the back and the orange bits with other paint. But if I just do the whole thing like this, it's super quick. So I'm going to get it everywhere. I'm going to stop the camera so I can move the camera, because this is quite difficult to do, as I said. So I'll be back in a minute. So I've done 2 colours of sponge on there, one a Shabty Bone and one Screaming Skull GW paints. You can see they're 2 slightly different tones. Just gives you an immediate sort of highlight and gradient on there. It's not Angel Giraldez standards or anything, but it is definitely table ready, and once we've put all the other bits and pieces on, like the orange and the rust, it'll look great. So what I'm going to do next, I'm going to paint the orange bits that I want orange with the orange base coat first of all, and whilst that's drying I will move on to the rusty areas, I think, and then I'll show you how I do my super quick and very cheaty rust. So let's get on with the orange. So just about half an hour in, I've done the orange, some super quick highlights. They're quite rough, but we're going to muck up this paint job with rust effects and stuff anyway. So you can see I just used 3 colours, really super quick, simple blending. 2 GW colours, Troll Slayer Orange, Fire Dragon Bright, and then Sunny Skin Tone by Vallejo. And it just really very rough blending. So that's all the orange bits done now. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to paint the areas of deep pittedness, or the deep pits in there, with a rust coloured paint, which I think I can get out my rack here. Which is it's a game effect. It's got a slightly metallic tint to it, but it's just the right colour for rust. So I'm going to put that deep in the pits. Then I'm going to do some stippling around the edges, which I'll try and do on camera with a lighter brown, and then we'll go for the old metal around, on the edges as well, to make it look like the paint's chipped off and it's rusted. Before I get to that stage though, I'm going to do some more sponging of the rust coloured paints on the edges of some of this and the cab, because that's what gives it a really sort of weather worn and rusted effect. So I'll try and do that on camera, or at least start it on camera and then finish it off camera. So I've used that rust coloured paint in all the pits. It's slightly grainy as well, and it's really nice as a rust effect, or a base of a rust effect on fine models. I'm not really using it to its full potential here, because I'm doing all of this in a very speedy sort of way, which is, by the way, fine on Plague models, but I probably would spend a bit more time on other vehicles. It's also worth mentioning, I keep meaning to mention it and I haven't yet, that I use a hairdryer a lot, not on my head because I'm completely bald, but to dry paint between stages. And it's one of the most useful tools, I think, for that. It really speeds up your painting. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to sponge 3 colours now onto the bits that I want to be rusted. I'm going to start with Doomball Brown, which is sort of dark, ready rust colour, Scrag Brown, which is a lighter rust colour, and then I'm going to go carefully round with Lead Belcher. And I'll have a go at doing the first bit on camera, but like I said, my setup is not perfect for painting on camera and it's quite tricky. So I'll try and show you how I do it, then I'll stop, and then I'll show you the finished product. So start the clock. So just going to get some of this out. This is an old bottle, but the paint is quite nice and thick because it's old. This uses a lot of paint, this method, by the way. So, I mean, not bottles of the stuff, but it runs it out faster than normal painting does. So just as I did before, just getting a very light amount of paint on the sponge and just going around the rusted areas like that. And you can see that it starts to leave the upturned edges with a covering of that colour paint on. I'm going to do quite a lot on the front because it's had quite a lot of battle damage here. So you can see how that starts to build up, and then you don't want it all over because then it just looks a bit weird, but I just pick some spots around the rest of the vehicle down here. We'll do some there, and this side. Get some around this door. You can see that it, because you're not painting it on, because you're sort of using the fine sponge texture on it, it looks better. Let's get these railings with a bit of rust on. Not forgetting the interior of the cab, which is open, so let's do some spots where there's going to be rust in there. A bit on the sides. Back corner here, I think. So, like I said, dead easy when you're painting Plague stuff. So that's the first, stop the clock, that's the first layer of the rust brown colours. I'm going to do the same with the Scrag Brown and then with the Lead Belcher, and then I'll show you what it looks like in a minute. So here it is, we're 40 minutes in now. I've done, I don't know if you can let me move that palette out of the way. I've done the stippling, the sponge painting rather. So easy, like I said, not winning any awards, but it looks pretty effective. Definitely decent tabletop standard. Once we've picked the actual metal bits out, like the mechanism in the door, the grills and things like that, it'll also start to really come together. So that was that. I'm now going to do the rusting on this lot. Now this I'm going to do slightly differently. So like I said, I've undercoated all of these with an Army Painter, I can't remember which one it is, it's a dark brown spray. I'm going to stipple some of that on. I'm going to stipple some bright orange paint on, so probably that stuff. And then I'm going to dry brush over the top because, you know, dry brushing is super quick, super easy, and if you do it right with the right dry brush, then it can look really good. And the dry brush I'll be using is, of course, the super cheap makeup brushes off Amazon, because they've actually got really nice fine bristles and they deposit the paint quite nicely. When you dry brush, you don't get loads of streaks in it. So the stippling brush I'm going to use is my favourite stippling brush, which is completely broken. So the thing about this is when you stipple with it, because the ends are so splayed, you actually get fairly random effects of paint on what you're painting. So again, I'll come back, I'll start the clock, and we'll see how long it takes to do that. 46.5 minutes. So I've stippled all of these, just thought I'd show you what that looked like. Just random light brown and rusty orange on all of these pre-sprayed pieces. I'm gonna dry brush those with a gunmetal colour in a minute, but I've also remembered that I needed to wash these wheels in a black ink. They're going to get just a grey dry brush and then some weathering powder to make it look like they've been driving through dirt. So I need to get those that they could dry. This might come in under an hour at this rate. I didn't think it was that quick. But let's see. So I'm going to go and dry brush the silver. Use the hairdryer on the wheels to dry the ink. And then the next stage is just the metallic details. So the door handles, the grills there, and painting the lights on the back here. And I'll do a metal grill in that headlamp, and I'll just stick a bit of yellow on those so they look kind of like bulbs. And then just the pintle mounted gun to do afterwards, which I can do pretty quickly. That's going to be mostly metallic with a couple of bits picked out on it. So I'll go and do the dry brushing, the hair drying and all that sort of stuff, and I'll be back in a mo. Ooh, on the 50-minute mark, these are dried. Quick dry brush on those. All the dry brushing is done on that. I've very quickly done a couple of colours of undercoat and a wash on those. I'm going to just finish that red cloth at the front and that'll do. So we're almost at the point where I could do the final assembly. Now everything's painted. So it might come in under an hour. It might be just over. Let's see. Whew, right, everything is painted pretty much in the same way as the original was. Done all the bits. Now I've just got to assemble it. We're on 56 minutes and 13 seconds. So I'm childishly excited to see whether I can do this in under an hour. So I'm using super glue to glue these last bits together because they've got paint on, so it'll probably stick better, who knows. But these Mantic models they're actually pretty good. They're almost push fit. The tolerances are quite good. You probably saw me before drilling holes. Oh no, you didn't, because I forgot to press record. Anyway, I've drilled holes in the back of the internal bits of the wheels, because if you don't, the seal is so tight that when you try and push them in, the air gets trapped behind and they won't go in. So that's how fine the tolerances are. Anyway, so I'm going to try and put these together in, what, 3 minutes and 47 seconds. Let's see how we do. Start the watch. I think I'll do rear suspension first. I'm probably not going to be very good at keeping this on camera, am I? But never mind. So goes on there. I'll get the other one on and I can squeeze them together. That goes on there. Let's see if we can, because they've got paint on there a bit. Okay, that's on. That's as on as it's going to get. Front suspension. Which goes where? That goes here. one's in. I hope you can see, oh, don't want to glue my finger. I hope you can see why I spray painted them differently, because it's allowed me to do all those really cheaty techniques on different bits without having to worry about going over the lines and painting the wrong bit. So let's get that one in there. Okay, that'll do. And then the dozer blades, so we'll go in like that. Mules. Side wheels. Wheel covers. Oh, we're gonna do it. Pintle mounted machine gun. Boom. Done. 59 minutes, 26 seconds from bag to tabletop standard painted. Quite pleased with that. Looks all right. Let's go and compare it to the other one. So, back here again. Here's the one I showed you earlier. My first mule. The green machine gun. And here's the one we've just painted and assembled in just under an hour. Look pretty similar to me. So, super fast paint jobs, meaning that you can definitely get a decent sized army for Firefight on the table pretty rapidly, I reckon. Now I've got those two. I'm not sure I needed two mules, but I was really dying to see how long it actually took me to paint that first one. Now that's done, I'm going to have to start cracking on with some of the troops, I think, and work out how to paint those quickly too. So thanks very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. It was a bit silly, but it was fun. I'll see what I can do for next week in terms of painting up some troops. Thanks for watching, folks. See you.